Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet Sci-Fi Entertainment with an Edge. Jaime En Fuego here, returning for a new installment of my namesake program, Enfuegotainment, and a rapido review of none other than probably the most anticipated movie of the summer that was wrought with problems and, unfortunately, at this particular point, massive expectation, and that is none other than TENET, the newest release from visionary director, and I use those quotation marks because of the fact that Christopher Nolan is at least kind of a polarizing person for me as far as his creativity goes. So, granted, he has done masterful things visually. I mean, I enjoyed Inception to a point. Interstellar is amazing and emotional, and one that I was just, finally getting around to watching recently. I was on, not so much of a sci-fi tinge when that initially came out, but I love his earlier stuff, including Memento, Insomnia with Pacino and Robin Williams in a very interesting villainous role, and Batman Begins is one of my favorite Batman films aside from the Burton stuff. Not so big on Dark Knight. Hate Dark Knight Rises, his absolute worst film that he has ever made. And yet, with everything that has happened in a pandemic and delays and yet demand for films to be seen on screen, Nolan has kind of rubbed a few people the wrong way, but I returned to a theater yesterday for the very first time here in the state of Arizona, and I'm going to give some explanation initially as to why. So, a couple months ago, in the heated, nasty midst of all of this being at its worst with regards to, the nasty 19, we were seeing thousands upon thousands, like 4,000 or 5,000 new cases per day, and some of the worst, heat of the situation. Yesterday, I went to a movie theater when there were 174 new cases that were docked, and so we are hopefully getting to a better point in the midst of all of this. And on top of that, I went to a theater with Lady Catherine that basically had maybe a dozen, 15 other people in it, spaced within rows, masks, all that good stuff, and I kept mine on, for the predominance of it, unless I was, trying to put a tiny piece of food in my mouth or something, but lift the mask, quickness back to it. I know a lot of people have major mixed feelings about even returning to theaters, but yet that is a personal choice to make, obviously. I spoke with my father about this over the weekend, and he was just basically like, look kid, eventually things do have to try to return to some sense of normality, and that's what the theaters here in the deadly desert of Arizona are attempting to do. I went to a Harkins, which I've been going to since I was a little kid. I feel for just the theater industry and for the industry of film, and obviously also just live concerts, anything where people congregate, sporting events, whatever. It's like basically in the midst of all of this, the entirety of my favorite things all just went poof, gone, and you can only sit home and binge, HBO Max or Netflix or whatever, and for so long, there has to be a point eventually, and I was impressed with just the precautions that were being taken, the conscientiousness that the extent of the moviegoers had, and once again, I purposefully chose a screening where there was not a ton of people that were there. I looked at how many tickets had been sold, chose my seats accordingly, and now to get to the, well, technically the second film that I saw in theaters since just yesterday, because I also reviewed The New Mutants over with Cecil on the horror show. But TENET, Christopher Nolan, the burden of expectation, and as I just started this out with, I don't love his body of work, at least his later body of work. And so just without getting too divulging into the storyline of all of this, because he loves his secretive nature, obviously, this is the best way I can describe it. It's like a Bond movie that is mashed together with time travel sensibilities, and a lot of people are aware of this already, but I mean, for something like Looper, yet changing some ideas a little bit. It's basically Looper meets a Daniel Craig Bond with, Nolan being a British director and everything. And right off the bat, I enjoyed it. I didn't absolutely adore it, love it, or anything, and this is really polarizing critics. Some people are saying pretentious and plotting and tough to follow. Yeah, in a lot of ways, it is all of those things. Not to throw my lady under the bus, but she was like, this is a lot to take in, and she is sharp as a tack and has much more of just comprehension of physics and a lot of this deeper scientific law than I personally do, but I enjoyed it. I thought the acting was fantastic, most notably from John David Washington, who was badass and just funny, and yet just still had a lot of heart, and also just the amount of I don't know, just gravitas that you needed for something like BlacKkKlansman and working with Spike Lee. Pattinson, our new Batman, is just further shedding the fact that, you know, he was once the Twilight guy and he glowed or whatever. You know, the two of them as our duo throughout the predominance of this are really great. The rest of the supporting cast I thought were solid, but you've got Michael Caine for a scene, this British actress who is like a pseudo love interest, and then also this Russian gangster. They're okay, you know, but really the basis is almost this like buddy cop sort of situation for these time traveling agents that we get. And it's not even so much there is a time travel aspect, but I really wonder how much I can talk into this whole inversion sort of situation, because it's not just jumping back or forward in time or whatever, but there's this essence of inversion, as they call it, and just things playing out backwards, which you see in the trailers. And I mean, there's not really much else that I can say aside from there is like catastrophic stuff that is going down, and that's why Pattinson's character and Washington's character, they pair up and they're doing their damnedest. They're going all over like Europe and you know, bits of Asia and stuff like that. They're in India, they're in you know, Russia, they're in you know, London. They're all over the place. And they're also jumping around and playing very deliberately with time. There is an interesting intersection that we get in a lot of instances. But to just go back to the impression that you know, that Catherine had about it was really that it's at a blistering pace. It's 2.5 hours, but it totally did not feel like 2.5 hours to me personally, because it is so go as far as just very heavy-handed with the plot, very heavy-handed with the development of everything that is going on, the increasing just essence of just impending doom, I guess, unless certain things are able to happen. And I guess that's pretty much every spy movie, right? I mean, so many of these villainous people, and it's why I make the Bond connotation, they're trying to destroy the world. This is a way larger scale than that, y'all, significantly. But with that just relentless pace and not even feeling like it's runtime, you have to pay attention to keep up. There's great action set pieces that are very impressive. You've seen the car chase in the trailers and whatnot. It's really dope. It's very well done. I mean, Nolan shoots the shit out of his films. They look amazing. I wasn't the biggest on Dunkirk or Inception necessarily, but those are both amazing looking movies. Even my just reviled Dark Knight Rises, I still think that's a terrific looking movie, except for stupid football sequences or whatever. But nonetheless, yeah, Nolan is a great filmmaker as far as his vision goes, you know. This time he wrote it and directed himself. It's not his most expensive film of all time. That is still Interstellar, but this one is still well over the 200 million mark, so I can see why he was like, nope, you need to have this on you know, big screens as opposed to doing a premium VOD sort of thing. I'm going to be controversial and say that I legit would have been fine with seeing this on my TV here at home. You know, great picture quality, solid sound. I would have been okay with that. This, compared to something like Interstellar, something of that scope and scale, this one, dare I say, I would have been more okay with seeing at home, and I wouldn't have been bothered by it for that sheer fact. Another detriment, I guess, that I have to go to, you know, I've said a lot of bueno, a malo thing, and maybe it's even a feo in some cases, and ugly, is that we don't really develop these characters very much. I mean, really, the most developed is this art dealer, love interest of Washington's that has an arms dealer, still husband, but separated, conflicted sort of thing going down. And so, I mean, in a lot of ways, she's the most developed character over the course of this. That's kind of crazy. Pattinson, Washington, they're both terrific. The extent of their development is pulling the layers back and realizing the extent of their intertwinement and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I can understand where some would love the hell out of this and some would be head scratching and being like, oh man, you're talking about entropy, you're talking about, you know, laws of physics and, you know, just reverse effects of things. And I mean, there are things in this point that take place, you know, ahead and take place, you know, behind, and just connecting all of those puzzle pieces and stuff. I really enjoyed that aspect, and I thought it was a very well thought out film in that regard. Even if it didn't always succeed, the ambition was impressive. Nolan doesn't muck around in that regard, and I guess it took him like around 5 years to actually get this script together. Maybe a little bit more interesting character development would have aided the process, but it's definitely a pretty cool film. It's not going to be upper echelon for me as far as things that I've seen this year. Da 5 Bloods is still my favorite film of the year, and there's some great little horror gems and, you know, sci-fi stuff. But yeah, I did actually enjoy this film more than I was expecting to. I didn't come in with lofty expectations like I think a lot of Nolan worshippers probably did, and for that sheer fact, it was an entertaining, if not overthought, overwrought, and a little pretentious, little contrived. Yeah, I will toss those words out there, but I mean, nonetheless, I am going to give this 3 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs. It's probably more of like a 3.5. That's what I think I rated it on Letterboxd, but yeah, you know, the hell with it. I'm gonna rescind what I said. This, I lean more towards a 4 than a 3, with it'd be more like a 3.75, but yes, I'm going to say it, this is certified Fuego. This is, you know, for better or for worse. If you feel comfortable and, you know, health-wise, if there are anything pre-existing, anything terrible that you would be worried about, don't chance it. This is something that you can be totally fine waiting, but, you know, for it to be on home release and streaming and stuff like that. But if you are comfortable going to a theater and you think, you know, safety, at least here in the theater that I went to, Christown here in Arizona, Cryptown as Cecil so affectionately calls it. If you feel okay with that, then I definitely recommend Tenet. I will say it is, in fact, a certified Fuego, even if it's a little less than 4 for me. Yes, hashtag certified Fuego for Tenet. It's no masterpiece, that is for damn sure, but it was still an entertaining ride, despite being a little contrived, that I would recommend if you're into this sort of big budget spy. I mean, it's definitely Bond, but really just throwing in some of that Looper sci-fi. So, I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube. I am about to put up a review of Bill and Ted Face the Music that I also watched yesterday and quite enjoyed, so stay tuned for that. A like, a share, a subscribe, a little bit of support is massively appreciated. And yeah, if you like spooktacular stuff, as I said, and you want to go over and see myself and Cecil Layard's review of The New Mutants, which was this past weekend's big release, then yes, jump over to youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. That's where all of that shizzle is going down. So yeah, everybody, greatly appreciated. As I said, once again, donka, arigato, merci. Thank you, gracias so very much for tuning into this, and until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos, constant viewers and readers alike in this regard, say thank you, and I'm hopeful that we share more of this film palaver sooner rather than later, and until then, remember to watch as much at-home content as possible, but if you are feeling confident and you really would like to relish the theater experience, research and go and support them if you can.